survey is a great tool for collecting a variety of useful data from facts, opinions, beliefs, past and present behavior of people, which can be used for your benefit. And for any survey to be successful, it needs to have the following 3 important components: a clear survey goal, an effective and unbiased questionnaire, and a powerful survey tool with response collection and data analysis options. In this webinar, I'm going to help you create, analyze, and send your very first survey in Zoho Survey using these 3 components. And Zoho Survey is a powerful survey tool using which you can create surveys, distribute it, collect responses, and analyze it. So if you've signed up for Zoho Survey already, you already got the 3rd component covered. And if you haven't signed up for Zoho Survey, that's okay. You can see how awesome Zoho Survey is during the demo, and after the webinar is over, you can go to zoho.com/survey to sign up for free. Now, while I was getting ready for this webinar, my product marketer Trishna asked me to create a post-webinar feedback form, which I can send to you guys to get your feedback about this webinar. And I thought it would be really fun if I can take you guys with me along the process of me creating this survey in Zoho Survey, so you can see how I use Zoho Survey and also these 3 components to make a great survey. So let's get started. So let's start with the first and the most important part of creating a survey: having a clear survey goal. Creating a survey without having a clear goal is like starting a journey without having a destination. The more clear your survey goal is, the more easier it will be to create the questionnaire that's going to get you the data you want. And the survey goal will also help you analyze your responses and arrive at conclusions. So, how do we set a clear goal for our survey? It's pretty simple. All you have to do is ask 2 questions. What do I want from the survey, and why do I need it? So in my case, what do I want from the survey? I need your overall feedback, the attendees of the webinar. And why do I need it? So I can evaluate the current webinar content's effectiveness and improve the content for future webinars. So my goal is really clear. Get the attendees' feedback and use it to evaluate the current webinar content and to improve future webinar content. So now that we have a clear goal set for our survey, it's time for us to go take a look how we can create the survey in Zoho Survey. Okay, so in order to create your questions in Zoho Survey, first you have to log into Zoho Survey. And when you do, you will see 3 different tabs in your homepage. The blank survey tab is where you create new surveys from the scratch, and under the template tab, you can make use of a variety of pre-designed templates and build your form based on that. And if you already have surveys created in your account and you want to clone it or perhaps create very similar surveys, then you go to the existing survey tab and pick up your existing survey and create it. But for this survey, I would like to create the survey from scratch. So I go to the blank survey and I give a name for our survey. Let's call it webinar feedback. Click continue, and Zoho Survey will take me to the survey builder where I can start writing my questions. So basically, this is how it works. In order to create a question, you have to first choose the question type from this panel and then proceed writing your question. And there are 25 different question types available in Zoho Survey for you to choose from, and use the best type for each kind of question you want to ask. Now, you can either start writing your questions in Zoho Survey directly, or have all your questions written down in a notepad or any place where you can start with a rough draft, review it, proofread it, and then create the finalized questions in Zoho Survey. Now, I personally like doing the latter, so I'm going to be writing down my rough draft of my questionnaire in Zoho Writer, which is our Zoho's online word processing tool. And once I finalize the questions, I'll create them one by one in Zoho Survey. Now, to kickstart the questionnaire, we should start from the goal we have set for our survey. All we have to do is to think about the information that we'd be needing to achieve the set goal. In our case, our goal is to get feedback from the webinar's attendees about the webinar's content, presentation, and the overall experience. So let's think about what are all the information that we'll be needing. The first thing I'd be needing is, of course, the attendees' contact information. So let's say I need name, email, and phone number of the attendees. And then I'd probably want to know how frequent they use surveys or they create surveys. So let's ask, do you create surveys quite frequently? And then I would want to get straight to the point and ask, how satisfied are they with the webinar's content, presentation, and perhaps the speaker? And I would also ask them to rate how good the information provided in the webinar was. And I'll wrap it up by asking for additional comments or suggestions from them. And that's about it for now. The rough draft for our questionnaire is ready. Now, the questionnaire is one of the most important part of your survey because the questionnaire is what is going to get you the data you need from your respondents. And of course, there's no such thing as a perfect questionnaire, but what we can do is follow some tips and guidelines to make your questionnaire more effective and unbiased. And I'm going to give you 4 such tips that you can use in your very next survey to improve the effectiveness of your questionnaire. Tip number 1, avoid asking questions that are too personal, sensitive, or confidential. Your questions should always make your respondent feel comfortable in giving you the answer. So you must always avoid asking questions that are too sensitive or personal that might make your respondent feel uncomfortable or even give a dishonest or untruthful answer. Things like sexual preferences or drug use fall under this category. But if these are the information you're specifically targeting at and are essential for your survey, then be sure to assure your respondents that their information will be kept confidential or even anonymous. And that will make your respondents feel more comfortable in giving you an honest answer. Now let's take a look at the first question in my survey, for example, where I ask for the respondents' contact information. I feel like our webinar attendees will feel comfortable giving out their name and email address to the survey, but maybe not phone numbers. And also, phone number is not that relevant for this survey. So I should probably write my questions focusing only on getting the name and email address and leave out the phone number. So let's go ahead and write our first question in Zoho Survey asking for the name and email address. What I can use in the question type is the single text box question, because that's the ideal question type to use when you want your respondents to write in a short text or numerical answer. So let me just write name and specify whether this question is mandatory or not. In our case, it's not, so I will leave this checkbox unchecked. And this question is pretty simple and self-explanatory, so no question hint is required. And the text box size looks reasonable at 30 characters since it's just a name box, but you can choose anywhere between 10 to 100 characters depending upon your requirement. So I'll leave it as 30. And we will talk more about validation and autofill or auto-populate options in our future webinars. But for now, let's keep it simple. The question looks really simple and good. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. And you can see the question being saved and appearing here. And for the next question, in which I'm going to ask for the email addresses of the respondents, let's use the email text box question type, which will alert the user with an error message if the entered email is not valid. So that makes it perfect for asking, well, email addresses. And let's type in email ID. And let's make this question mandatory. And let's change this message, the error message, to please provide a valid email ID. And again, the text box size seems reasonable at 30 characters. And I will go ahead and click Save. And our email address question will be added to the questionnaire. Now, to make the respondent feel more comfortable with sharing their email ID with us, we can let them know about our privacy policy, which is we don't share or spam or send unsolicited emails to their email address. I feel like letting them know that will encourage them to give their email and trust us with it. So I can do that by adding this heading/descriptive text question type. Now, this question type will not ask for the respondent to choose an answer or write an answer. Instead, it will simply show the content I'm going to be typing. So let me just write note and our privacy policy and click save, and our note will be added to the questionnaire. Okay, now I feel very confident that these questions are going to be effective because we're asking only for relevant information and also assuring our respondents that their information will be kept confidential. Now on to the tip number 2. Keep your questions clear and specific. In order to ensure that all your questions are uniformly interpreted and comprehended by all your respondents, you have to word your questions very specific and clear. Although this seems very obvious, this is one of those things that are often overlooked by many survey creators, and it affects your questionnaire. Let's take the next questions in my survey as an example. In the third question, I'm trying to find out if the respondent creates or uses surveys frequently. But the problem with this question is that quite frequently can be interpreted differently by different people. There's no specification as to how frequent is quite frequent. So instead, if I ask the respondents, how many surveys have you approximately created or used in the past 1 month, then there's no confusion and all the respondents will exactly know what I'm asking for. And let's make it easy for the respondents to answer this question by making this into a multiple choice question in Zoho Survey. So I simply choose the multiple choice with only one answer question type in Zoho Survey, write in my question, and type in my multiple choice answers. Let's say 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 plus. And I would also like to enable the other option here, using which the respondent can answer the question even if he or she doesn't find the relevant answer in the choices I've provided. So let me go ahead and check that. And the field label looks fine. Now I can click save and I have a question that is easy to understand and is very specific in asking what it wants. Tip number 3, don't ask double-barrel questions. A double-barrel question is something that comprises multiple questions in one question and yet allows the respondent to answer with one single answer. Let's take a look at the fourth question in our survey. It asks them how satisfied they are with the webinar's content, presentation, and speakers. This is perhaps a triple-barrel question because this is asking the respondents to rate 3 different aspects of the webinar with one answer. Now, usually we can solve these type of questions by splitting this question into 3 different questions and getting 3 different answers. But in Zoho Survey, you can actually fix this question without even splitting it into different questions using the matrix choice type question. Now, this matrix choice question will allow the respondent to evaluate 1 or more items listed in rows using the same set of choices provided in columns, which would be the perfect solution to solve our triple-barreled question problem. So I choose matrix choice with 1 answer per row. I write in my question. And I move on to typing the items that needs to be evaluated in the rows section here. So that'll be content, presentation, and speaker. And by the way, if I've not mentioned this before, this is how you write or provide multiple choices for multiple choice type questions. You write each choice on a separate line to provide them as separate options. Now I will move on to the column choices, where I will type in the choices that needs to be evaluated. And let me go ahead and click save to see how it looks. Perfect. So now the respondents can evaluate 3 different components of the webinar in one question. Tip number 4, avoid asking leading questions. Now, a leading question is a question that intentionally or unintentionally suggests or manipulates your respondents into answering in a biased manner. Let's take a look at the 5th question in our questionnaire, for example. How good would you rate the amount of information provided in this webinar? Now, this question is definitely biased because it starts out with the default that the information provided in the webinar was good, and it's just asking the respondents to rate just how good it was. And if some attendees didn't find the information good at all, they don't have any option to express it. So to fix that, we can start by choosing a multiple choice question option and just remove the word good in the question and write, how would you rate the amount of information provided in the webinar? And let's provide 3 options. Not enough, about right, too much, which will get a straightforward answer without any bias. Now let's go ahead and save it. And we have a question that doesn't lead or suggest anything, asks a straightforward question and gets a straightforward answer, which is perfect. Now let's throw in a couple of more questions to complete the questionnaire here. Let's perhaps throw in a typical rating scale question and ask our webinar attendees to rate their overall experience with the webinar. And to do that, I should choose the rating scale multiple choice question type and write in my question. Let's ask them to rate their experience on a scale of 1 to 10. And let's make this question mandatory. And perhaps let's customize the error message. And I'm fine with the Likert point scale. And let's change the scale from 1 to 10. And the labels can be from very unsatisfactory to very satisfactory. Let's go ahead and save the question. And here we have a nice classical rating scale question. All right, now let's write in the last question, asking for the attendees' suggestions and feedback. And for this question, let's use the essay area question type. And let's write in our question. And let's not make this question mandatory, so I'm just going to leave this checkbox unchecked. And of course, the question is self-explanatory. No question hints are required. And the format looks fine with 5 lines and 60 characters wide. And I'm not going to touch upon validation and autofill in this webinar. So let's go ahead and click save. Now the survey is almost ready, but there is something else I can do in Zoho Survey to make things more dynamic. Now let's say a respondent chooses anything below 5 for the overall satisfaction question. Now I would want to know the reason behind the low rating so I can fix it. Now what I can do here is put another question between the 4th and the 5th question that will ask for the reason behind low rating. However, this question will not appear unless the respondent gives a rating that's less than 5. And here's how you can do this. You first write the question in between the fourth and the fifth question using the insert question option. And in the question text, let's just go ahead and ask what's wrong. And I don't feel this question should be mandatory, and no question hint is required, and the text box size looks reasonable with 5 lines and 60 characters wide. So let's just go ahead and save the question. Now this question is appearing in the question list. So in order for it to disappear and make it appear when someone chooses less than 5 rating, we have to configure something called question logic. Now that option is available at the bottom of the survey builder. Now question logic is what you use to make your audiences skip questions that are not applicable for them or irrelevant for them, or even make hidden questions pop up based on their response. That's what we're going to do now, and here's how we configure it. We click the Add Question Logic, and in the If drop-down, we select the question we want to apply the logic to, so that'll be the overall satisfaction question. And in the second drop-down, we choose less than, and the rating would be 5. And in the then drop-down, we basically tell Zoho Survey what it should do when this happens. So we want Zoho Survey to show the question we've written. So we choose Show Questions. And we also choose the question which we have written. So here we go. And we'll just have one overview look at the question logic. So if this question is rated with less than 5 rating, Zoho Survey will show the question we have written. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and save it, and the logic is enabled for our question. Now there's also an option for skipping pages, and that is page logic, which can be used to send your respondents to a specific page, skipping the pages that are irrelevant for them. So now the survey has all the questions and is pretty much ready to launch. So let's go ahead and have a look at the survey by clicking the preview button at the top, which will give us a preview of the survey without publishing it. So here we go. The questions look fine. And let's go ahead and check out if the logic is working properly. So let me choose a rating that's less than 5, and I can see our new question, or the question we wrote, popping up. And if I choose anything above 5, it is not. Perfect. So everything seems to be working fine. Now, before we go ahead and send out this survey, I feel like we can give it a nice look, and also some branding too, because this looks very basic, and aesthetics is one of the important things that we should look at in our survey. So for that, I go to the survey builder and I go to the settings tab, and let's start with the header settings. The header settings allows you to upload your brand logo, which will increase your brand recall. So you can either upload it from your computer or from a web URL, or if you've already uploaded some images to your Zoho Survey account, you can pick it up from there. So I'm just going to pick up Zoho Survey's logo and click apply. And our logo is now added to the survey. And you can either use the headline or the title you've given to your survey when you created it, or you can specify a title. So I'm just going to write Webinar Satisfaction Survey. And down here, you can also configure the navigation options. You can enable a back button using which your respondents can go front and back if your survey has multiple pages and fill out the forms. And you can also enable a progress bar. That'll come in handy if your survey is multiple pages. It'll give you this bar will give you a progression status to your respondents, and to know where they're at and how many questions or pages are pending. And you can also enable numbers to the questions, and also a CAPTCHA code to prevent bots from accessing and spamming your form. And CAPTCHA code, if in case you don't know, is that scrambled text in an image form that you have to type down in every form to prove that you're human and not an automated program who's spamming it or accessing it. And at the bottom, you also have the option to change the language, the default language of your survey. So if your respondents are from a different country and they speak a different language, then you can set the language they're comfortable with to show, which will be used to show error messages. And Zoho Survey offers about 35 questions that you can choose from. I'm just going to leave this in English and move on to the footer settings. Now, in the footer, for branding purposes, Zoho will have this message saying powered by Zoho Survey. Now, you can of course take it off. All you have to do is just uncheck it, and that message will be removed from the survey footer. And down here you have options to customize your end pages. So survey close page, for instance, will be shown when a respondent accesses your survey after your survey has been expired or closed. So you can configure what message you want to show them, and you can switch to rich text and format your text and make it look good. And you also have options to configure the termination pages. Now this is the page your respondents will land on once they finish their survey. So you can choose to show a specific text, a new web page, a report of all the responses that have been submitted, or even just an overview of their own responses to the survey. And you can even send your respondents to other web pages based on the responses they submit using question logic. Now I'm just going to go ahead and save the settings. Great. Now let's move on to the styling part, where we beautify our survey and make it look good. And we can do that under the themes section, where Zoho Survey provides a variety of themes that we can choose from. And there are two types of themes available in Zoho Survey. One is the fully customizable themes, which allows you to customize your theme completely. And the other is what we call standard themes, which are not as customizable as the fully customizable ones, but are already pre-designed well. So if you don't have time to design it, or if there's no need for you to do that, you could just go ahead and pick one of the standard themes and use it, which is what I'm going to do for our survey. So let me just see which theme fits the webinar and surveying. Okay, I think I'll just go with the boardroom one. So in order to see how my survey will look like in this theme, I just have to click the preview option. When I hover over it, I get these two options. So I'll just click preview. And I can see now how my survey will look like in this theme. And I'm actually pretty impressed. I have a nice logo, and the questions are aligned properly. All right, so I think I'll just go with this. So in order to choose this, what I can do is just click the apply option checkbox here, and the theme will be applied to my survey. So our survey is now ready to go. I can just directly go and deploy it. But before I do that, I'd like to talk to you about integrations that Zoho Survey has with third-party applications. Zoho Survey is integrated with Zoho CRM, Google Docs, and Sales IQ. The Zoho CRM integration will allow you to see your survey responses in your Zoho CRM modules. And the Google Docs integration will sync your Google Sheets with your survey, so every response you receive will be updated on your Google Sheet immediately. And the Zoho Sales IQ integration will help you track visitors who revisit your website through their name and email address. We'll be talking about these integrations in detail and demo it to you in the integrations webinar. So now, with no further ado, let's go ahead and deploy our survey. And to do that, I go to the Deploy tab and click Publish Now. So now our survey is public and ready to go out. Now, once your survey is crafted and is ready to go, it is really important that you test your survey before sending it out to all your respondents. This is called pre-testing or piloting your survey, and it will help you identify questions that don't make any sense or might lead to biased answers. And there are many different ways you can pre-test your survey. Perhaps the easiest way is to choose a small group of people from your sample or from your friends or family and test the survey with them first. Now, this will give you an opportunity to see how your questions are going to be comprehended and understood by your respondents. And in Zoho Survey, there are several different ways to send your survey to your respondents. Let me show you some of them. The simplest way, perhaps, is using the web link. So you can just simply copy and paste the web link into your email message or anywhere your respondents can pick it up from. And that could be even your social media. So anyone who has this link will be taken to the survey and be allowed to fill out the form. And another way to share your survey is by embedding it into your website. So if you have a website or a blog and you want your website visitors and blog readers to take up your survey, you can simply embed the survey in your website using the HTML method or iframe, JavaScript, pop-up, or even put up a QR code with which your respondents can scan through their mobile devices and fill out your survey. Now, let me show you something interesting. Zoho Survey is an online survey tool, but there will be instances where you don't have an active internet connection and yet have the need to run surveys. Maybe you're a researcher collecting research data during excursions, or maybe you're quizzing some students and you don't want them to look up answers online. In those scenarios, the offline function of Zoho Survey will come in handy. In order to make this work, all that is needed is some upfront configuration. Let me show you how this works. Just go to the Offline Survey tab and click Enable Offline. And Zoho Survey will ask you to set up a password, which will secure your survey and prevent it from unauthorized access while it's offline in a device. So just set up a password and click Continue. Now all we have to do is open the survey using the offline link while we have the internet connection. And once we get to this page, then we can turn off the internet or go offline, and you will still be able to access your survey and record responses. Just click the Record a Response button to start the survey. So ideally, you can set this up in your mobile device or your laptop before you go offline, and you can get your respondents to fill out your survey from the device where Zoho Survey offline function is enabled and collect their responses. Now let me go ahead and fill out this form while I don't have internet, so I can show you how you can upload the responses back online when you get internet connection. So let me fill this out real quick. I'm just going to type in some dummy data. Okay. 5, 5, 5. About right. So I'm just choosing the ideal choices that I would hope our users will be choosing. And I'm just going to go ahead and click Submit. And even though my computer is offline, Zoho Survey has recorded my response. So I'll just click Home to see the response. And here it is. So I can continue to keep recording responses. And once I get online, I can just click the Upload Offline Responses button to upload or to save all the records or all the survey responses I've collected to my Zoho Survey account. So let me just go ahead and enable the internet connection and click Upload Offline Responses. And now it asks for the password which I set up earlier. So now you kind of get the idea why it is important to set up a password. So it will prevent unauthorized users to upload your surveys your survey responses to your account. So I'll just type in the password here and click Submit. And my offline responses are uploaded to my Zoho Survey account. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind while being offline is that the entire setup of this page functions off of your browser's cache. So you should not close this browser window whatsoever until you upload all of your responses online when you get back the internet. Now let's move on to the other options. Now, if you need to send your survey to a lot of people, we suggest using the Campaigns option. Zoho Survey is integrated with Zoho Campaigns and MailChimp. So you can link your survey with these accounts and send it to your contacts through an email campaign. And of course, we will be talking about this integration in detail in our integrations webinar. So if this is something you'd be interested in, please do look out for that webinar. And another way to reach out to your audience is through social media, of course. Our Facebook integration will enable you to embed the survey on your Facebook page. All you have to do is just click the Connect with Facebook button and provide Zoho Survey with the permission to post on your page and access results that are submitted through it. And you can now see the list of all your Facebook pages in the Deploy tab. Simply select the page and click Save to post the survey. So these are the different ways you can use to deploy or share your survey to your respondents. Now let's talk about the different ways you can enable restrictions for your survey. Now, restrictions allow you to limit your responses by setting a cutoff date for collecting your responses. And also you can set a limitation for the maximum number of responses you want to receive from your survey. And also options to prevent multiple responses, like you can restrict only one response per computer and also from one URL. Now let me show you how this works. First, you should set a parameter name, preferably something with unique information. Here I'll be using the name field. Now, when I send the URL to a respondent named Patricia Langman, I'll be sending it with the parameter $name is equal to Patricia_Langman added to it. This way, if they try accessing the link again, they will either see a message saying that they have already answered the survey or the results of the survey they've answered, depending upon whether you've selected the option to allow user to update responses at any time. You can also make it so that your respondents can't answer your survey without the necessary URL parameters by checking this box. One of the frequently asked questions about this functionality is whether you have to type out your recipient's name every single time you send an email. If you use Zoho CRM, Zoho Campaigns, or even MailChimp, you can program this to autofill these details when your campaign emails are sent. We'll be covering those details in our integrations webinar. And using the visibility options, you can choose to show your survey to only the members of your organization. Now, this feature is useful for people who have registered as an organization with Zoho Survey. And this concept will be discussed in detail in our advanced webinar. Now let's go ahead and see how we can secure our survey by enabling password protection. We can password protect our survey to ensure that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands and only distribute the password to those whom we want to answer the survey. All we have to do here is set up a password by typing in the password. And if we want, we can customize the text that will be shown to the respondents while asking for the password. And also the error message that's going to be shown when they enter an invalid password. And click Enable. There we go. Now our survey is password protected, and anyone who doesn't have the password will not be able to access the survey even if they get the link of the survey. Now, when all is done, you've sent out your surveys, collected responses, and you're ready to go analyze your reports, and there's no need for the survey to be live anymore. What you can do is close the survey by going to the Close Survey tab, click Close Survey, and it will ask you to confirm it. Just click Continue, and the survey will now be closed. So if any of your respondents access the link that you have shared with them after the survey is closed, they will be taken to the survey close page, which we have configured earlier. Now, there are options available in which you can use different collectors for different sets of respondents. We will be talking about those options and its applications in the advanced webinar. Now, once you send out your survey, the responses will come pouring in. And this is where the reports section comes in. Now, I just created this survey, so this survey will not have any responses in it, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be opening the report for another survey which I collected earlier, so I can demonstrate the reporting options for you. Now, you can access your reports from the My Surveys page by clicking the Reports icon in the survey editor. And you'll be presented with various options to view, manage, and analyze your responses and reports. And there are mainly two ways you can view your reports: summary responses and individual responses. Summary responses allow you to view the summary of your responses as a whole, or on a daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis. As you create custom reports, they will be listed here, so you can switch between them anytime. The report will give you the total number of survey visits as well as the number of completed and partial responses. You can filter them out by using the filter drop-down here. As you create more custom filters, they will be included in this drop-down menu. By default, the summary of the responses will be in a chart form, but you can click the display option to select how you want to view your data. You can export the reports for each question as an image or a PDF. As for the whole report, you can export it in XLS or CSV or PDF formats, or open it in Zoho Sheets. If you would rather have a printed version of your reports, simply click the print option to start printing. And using the individual responses option, you can find out the details of each response and their corresponding respondent, such as when they started filling out the survey, when it was completed, and the IP address of the computer or the device it was completed from, etc. And it will also show you each response made by an individual participant. You can filter the responses here too, and it works exactly like it did in summary responses. If you need to navigate to a particular response, just type in its number and click Go. You can also export the response as a PDF or print it out using the Export to PDF and Print option respectively. Reports offer many more features, such as customizing your reports and also helping you create custom filters, custom reports, and trend and cross-tab reports. You can also share your reports, schedule them, and delete them when it suits you. And again, all of these features will be covered in detail in our advanced feature webinar. And now we have come to the end of the webinar on creating, sending, and analyzing your first survey in Zoho Survey. So far, we have seen how you can create a survey in Zoho Survey, write an unbiased and effective questionnaire, design it, deploy and test it first, send it out to all your respondents, collect responses, view reports, and also touched upon some of the integrations. And of course, we have just scratched the surface of Zoho Survey, and there are lots of other advanced options that we haven't covered in this webinar. However, there are 2 other webinars coming along which touches upon all of that. The Advanced Features webinar will cover advanced features such as sharing and portals, custom variables, advanced reporting options, and many more. And the Integrations webinar will explain how you can get the most out of your Zoho Survey by integrating it with Zoho CRM, Zoho Campaigns, Zoho Sales IQ, MailChimp, Google Drive, and more. So do follow us on social media, our blogs and forums, and we will keep you updated about our upcoming webinars. And as for the survey I've created, I'm going to go ahead and send it over to you guys right now so you can give us your feedback. So here we go. And by the way, if you have any questions or need any assistance with the product, please feel free to send your questions through the webinar's question box, and my support team and I will be glad to answer them for you. And of course, you can write to us at support@zohosurvey.com if you have any further questions or need any assistance. I would like to thank you very much for joining me today in this webinar. I will see you soon in a future webinar. Until then, this is Miles signing off. Take care and good luck with your surveys.